The stimulus might be, wow, that's a lot of hot coming in. All right, let's just go with it here. The stimulus might be over and the drama might be done with that. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that as we go in there. A mysterious explosion rocked downtown Nashville as Christmas morning started out. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there and all of the tinfoil that's coming along with that. The ultra-wealthy argue who should be paying the higher taxes and give you a hint, it's not them. And Candace Owens might be running for office. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. Looks like we're getting a little bit of sound issues going on here, but we're going to power through it and see if it's unlistenable. Let me know, and we'll stop the stream and get it fixed here, or I'll switch out to a different microphone. But for right now, we're going to take what we've got and go with that. But before we get into anything, head on over to freedomscoop.com. FreedomScoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs, carrying great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Freckles and Brit Show, and The R-Rated Conservative. Come on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators as we move on into the new year and try to get this all monetized and, hey, maybe fulfill my dream of taking over the Daily Wire. That sure would be nice to get rid of that guy and get some good, honest newscasting coming from people who are on the ground, people who shower after they go to work, because they're coming back so dirty. And I like the guys at the Daily Wire, but let's be completely frank about all of this here. None of them know what's going on in the lives of people like you and me. But you've got your choices of news, I've got mine. Let's keep going. Starting with the stocks today. So there was a brief trading day on December 24th. Looks like it went from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. That is Eastern time, of course, because it's the New York Stock Exchange. And they wound up being up about 0.25% through that little brief bit of trade, probably mostly having to do with foreign, but for the most part it went up and went up and went up and went up, dropped a little bit and then went up again. So let's see what the investors have to say. However, looking over at the Bitcoin exchange here, Bitcoin jumped another 4,000 points. Bitcoin is up to 27,410 US dollars at this point, which is incredible. Incredible to see a cryptocurrency market come up and do that much. Just another jump as people look back and say, oh, wait, look, the currency is going to be worth considerably less. All right, let's move on into the stocks. Starting with MarketWatch. Dow futures up more than 100 points after Trump signed stimulus package. From William Watts. Wall Street was on track Monday to begin the final holiday. Wall Street was on track Monday to begin the final holiday shortened week of the 2020 on a positive note after President Trump ended a standoff with Congress over legislation that will send aid to consumers and small businesses. Futures on the Dow Jones rose 165 points or 0.6% to 30,274. S&P 500s were up 26.25 points or 0.7% to 3721.25. NASDAQ 100 futures gained 86.5 points or 0.7% to 12,791. Stocks put on a mixed performance in holiday-shortened trading week, with markets closed Friday for Christmas Day. After an early finish on Thursday, the Dow Jones eked out a rise of 0.1%, while the S&P 500 gave up 0.2%. The NASDAQ Composite rose 0.4%. Major indices ended Thursday not far below all-time highs. Trump's decision late Sunday night to sign the aid package came as a relief to investors who had been blindsided by Trump's demands late last week that lawmakers raise checks to households to $2,000 from $600. Trump was pressured by lawmakers from both parties who had negotiated the legislation, which passed both the House and Senate by wide margins, with the administration. The package also includes $1.4 trillion to fund government agencies, and by government agencies, of course, we mean foreign governments, through September, averting a government shutdown. We can finally breathe a big sigh of relief and say that the chaos over the stimulus bill is over, said Hussein Sayed, chief market strategist at FXTM, in a note. The sell-off has been averted, and this could provide one last boost to risk assets in the last 4 trading days of the year, he said. However, investors shouldn't get overexcited, as most of it is probably already priced in. Trading is expected to remain thin as investors close out the 2020 markets. Will be shut Friday for the New Year's Day holiday. Bulls expect stocks to get a seasonal lift from a Santa Claus rally, referring to a phenomenon that runs in the last week of December and the first 2 trading days of January. Alibaba boosted its stock repurchase program late Sunday from $6 billion to $10 billion, but shares remained under pressure in Hong Kong trading. Amid an antitrust investigation by Chinese regulators, the company's U.S.-listed shares slumped 13% on Thursday in reaction to the antitrust scrutiny. That's the only one really to watch today, so we will take a look at that. We will take that in stride and move on to the next part of this. Coming from CNBC, Dow Jones futures indicate 200-point gain as Wall Street enters the last week of 2020, from Yoon Lee. Stock futures rose in early morning trade on Monday ahead of the final trading week of 2020 as President Donald Trump unexpectedly signed an economic relief bill. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average implied an opening gain of nearly 200 points. S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ 100 futures also traded in solidly positive territory. President Donald Trump signed a $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill into law, averting a government shutdown and extending unemployment benefits to millions of Americans. The signing came days after Trump suggested he would veto the legislation demanding a $2,000 direct payments to Americans instead of $600. I'm signing this bill to restore unemployment benefits, stop evictions, provide rental assistance, add money for PPP, return our airline workers back to work, add substantially more money for vaccine distribution, and much, much more, Trump said in a statement Sunday evening. Wall Street is coming off a quiet holiday week where the major averages posted flat returns. The S&P 500 fell 0.2% last week as some investors took the chips off into the year end. The 30-stock Dow eked out a 0.1% gain for the same period. Profit-taking could ramp up in final week of the year, which has so far seen surprisingly strong returns. The S&P 500 has gained 14.6% year-to-date, while the Dow has climbed 5.8%. The NASDAQ has soared 42.7% this year as investors favored high-growth technology names during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Fauci, because he's Dr. Fauci, warned on Sunday that the country could see a surge in new COVID-19 infections. After Christmas and New Year's celebrations, 2 vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna have begun the distribution process this month. So far, over 1 million people in the U.S. have been vaccinated. So, vaccines are coming. We might open the economy back up. We probably won't at this point. The stocks are moving up, and people are going to get a paltry amount of money into their hands. And NBC is saying that this is a good thing. All right, let's get into the big news of the weekend, which up until yesterday was the RV thing. But let's have a look at this. From Politico, Trump backs down and signs stimulus package. And this isn't the whole story either, by the way. I've got one from the Daily Wire and one from the Blaze, talking about what Politico probably won't be talking about. From Burgess Everett, Sarah Ferris, Marianne Levine, and Melanie Zanona. President Trump signed into law a major coronavirus stimulus package, along with an annual spending bill, avoiding a government shutdown before a Monday night deadline. Trump has railed against the $900 billion coronavirus relief bill and a $1.4 trillion government funding bill since Congress approved it, demanding $2,000 checks and cutting out foreign aid. But on Sunday evening, after days of being lobbied by allies, Trump decided to sign the bill and not leave office amid a maelstrom of expired benefits and a government shutdown. He said he will insist on reductions in spending in parts of the bill, though Congress does not have to go along. I will sign the omnibus and COVID packages with a strong message that makes it clear to Congress that wasteful items need to be removed. Okay. Now, once again, we're going to go into a little bit more of the details that, left-leaning Politico isn't going to go into, but I do have to come out with this criticism. Where the fuck were you for the last 4 years? This has been an ongoing problem throughout your presidency and even before. Where the fuck were you? Yes, I agree with what you just said in this statement, President Trump, but we had 4 years to do this. And you're doing this at the last minute because you think you're on your fucking way out the door. No, you do not get to take credit for this. That is bad. You could have done this 4 years ago, and possibly, I'm gonna eliminate the national debt, which you wouldn't have done with what little bit you were cutting out of these massive spending packages. But all in the same, you could have at least started cutting some of this shit back. Yes, I'm happy for the tax cuts. Now cut the spending to go along with it. That's the biggest part that we need to do in government right now, is cut the goddamn spending. The president also said the Senate would soon begin work on ending legal protections for tech companies, examining voter fraud, and boosting the check size for direct payments. The current Congress ends in 6 days. I applaud President Trump's decision to get hundreds of billions of dollars of crucial COVID-19 relief out the door and into the hands of American families as quickly as possible, said Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell in a statement that did not mention the commitments Trump has said the Senate has made. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and several Republican senators, including Senators David Perdue and Lindsey Graham, labored to convince Trump to sign off on the bill over the weekend, according to multiple sources. Without action, the government was set to shut down Monday night, and an eviction moratorium would lapse shortly thereafter. Though Trump's decision headed that off, his initial refusal to sign the bill may still have consequences after unemployment benefits lapsed over the weekend. Not to mention the fact that the eviction moratorium does nothing but kick that fucking can right down the road. All these kids who think that they're just going to go and squat and live in their houses forever that they're renting are going to have an even bigger sum of money to come back with once all the eviction moratoriums are over. In an economy that Joe Biden has sworn he's going to shut down. All you're doing is kicking the fucking can down the road. This is ridiculous. I've not missed a rent payment yet off all of this. And I know people who have. I'm glad that they can stay in their homes. But we got to sit back and figure out how to do some of this here, because we're sitting on the corner of the housing market crashing again because of this. Because it's going to come back up, and all this is going to come back out, and all these kids are going to say, "Oh no, I'm $60,000 in debt. I don't know what to do. Government, help me. Help me, government. Help me, Big Daddy government." So, this is a problem that we are going to have to deal with in a very, very short order. After careful negotiations among congressional leaders and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Trump threatened to blow up the deal, which his own administration negotiated and indicated he would support. More than $2 trillion was at stake, including badly needed pandemic aid for programs like unemployment and food assistance. Yeah, more than $2 trillion was at stake, including the pandemic aid. But, of course, also including weapons that are going to Egypt and the Sudan. Money that is going to Israel for their Iron Dome defense system. Counting the fucking fish in the Gulf of Mexico. But no, let's only talk about the pandemic aid. Republicans both privately and publicly tried to sway Trump to change his mind after days of attacks on the bill. I understand he wants to be remembered for advocating for big checks, but the danger is he'll be remembered for chaos and misery and erratic behavior if he allows this to expire. Senator Pat Toomey said on Fox News Sunday of Trump's demands for a larger stimulus check. Pat, I got to tell you this, but he's going to be remembered for that no matter what happens. That's kind of baked into the cake once you have a reality TV show president. And we know because we already saw what happens under 8 years of a reality TV president. Dude, by the way, the left gets fucking pissed when you say that. If you suggest that Barack Obama was a reality TV president, they get so... That is like the big trigger to the left right now. Of course, you're going after their messiah, but... You don't get everything you want, even if you're the president of the United States, he said. Toomey also suggested that most Republicans won't support the $2,000 checks the president wants because it's terribly untargeted. And there's, the spending thing, and there's the no money coming in thing, and there's the fact that all of this $2.3 trillion just got financed by China. So there's plenty of problem going on here. But there may be some good news up on the horizon. Looking over at the Daily Wire. Breaking: Trump to use Impoundment Control Act to gut wasteful spending. Try to boost stimulus checks. From Ryan Saavedra. President Trump announced Sunday evening that he was signing the coronavirus stimulus package and the government spending bill, and that he will use the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 in an attempt to get Congress to drop what he called wasteful spending in order to get them to boost the coronavirus stimulus checks up to the levels he demanded last week. As President of the United States, it is my responsibility to protect the people of our country from the economic devastation and hardship that was caused by the China virus, Trump said. I understand that many small businesses have been forced to close as a result of harsh actions by Democrat-run states. They're the worst, okay? The left-run states, they're the worst. Many people are back to work, but my job is not done until everybody is back to work. Fortunately, as a result of my work with Congress in passing the CARES Act earlier this year, we avoided another Great Depression. Under my leadership, Project Warp Speed has been a tremendous success. My administration and I developed the vaccine many, many years ahead of the wildest expectations. It is the greatest vaccine, okay? You're going to want to take that vaccine. It's the best vaccine. I'd call it the Trump vaccine, okay? And others soon coming to millions of people, he continued. As president, I've told Congress that I want far less wasteful spending and more money going to the American people in the form of $2,000 checks per adult and $600 per child, okay? It's the child. The child is very important. $600 per child. Trump said he would sign the bill along with making mini recessions under the Impoundment Act, which allows the president to impound funds when he transmits a special message in accordance with the ICA. The U.S. Government Accountability Office reports upon sending the message, amounts proposed for rescission, that is, for permanent cancellation, may be impounded for a period of 45 days of continuous congressional session. Once again, where were you 3 years ago when we started doing this omnibus shit the first time while you were in office? Where was that? Where was the fire and brimstone that came with that? I will sign the omnibus and COVID package with a strong message that makes it clear to Congress that wasteful items need to be removed. They're the worst, okay? I will send back to Congress a red line version, item by item, accompanied by the formal rescission request to Congress, insisting that those funds be removed from the bill, Trump said. I'm signing this bill to restore unemployment benefits, stop evictions. They're the worst, okay? And I'm in real estate. I know the worst. I know evictions. Provide rental assistance and add money for PPP. Return our airline workers back to work. Add substantially more money for vaccine distribution and much, much more. And once again, I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. But we could have been doing this years ago. Why are we just doing this now? Unless, I mean, of course, we're sitting back thinking, oh, well, I'm going to get 4 more years, so I'm going to get 4 more years, folks, okay? So I'm going to stop the spending in my second term. I'm just going to spend in the first term, but I'm going to stop spending in the second term, okay? Just trust me on this. Trust the plan. No, that's not a Trump thing. That's a QAnon thing. Trust the plan. Trust the plan, guys. But I would have loved to see this 4 omnibus packages ago. Hell, can't we have a balanced budget once again instead of just, here, give me the money. This is what we plan to spend it on, but, it's a blank check at this point. So, we will see what is going on with that. I've got another one here from the Blaze. I gotta ask, what's going on with the audio here? Because I've been having some problems with that. Let me draw this back just a little bit again. I'm gonna draw this one back too. Yeah, thanks for keeping me on the toes on the audio. Ever since I set everything back up yesterday, I've been just a little bit off on where my audio is supposed to be. So we're trying to get that fine-tuned once again. From the Blaze, as Trump signs COVID relief package and late-night move, Republicans and Democrats both press for new vote on $2,000 stimulus payments. From Sarah Taylor. Both Republicans and Democrats pressed for a new vote on $2,000 stimulus checks after President Trump signed a COVID-19 relief package into law Sunday night. All right, let me see if we can get that fixed. All right, whoa, that's a little bit hot. All right, I switched to the potato, so we'll see if we can get that to go. I switched back to the one on my webcam. So let's see how that works. Let me dial that back in just a little bit, though, because that's running a little bit hot, too. All right, let's keep going here. From the Blaze, from Sarah Taylor. Both Republicans and Democrats pressed for a new vote in $2,000 stimulus checks after President Trump signed a COVID relief package into law on Sunday night. According to a late-night Newsweek report, lawmakers from both parties impressed the importance of a new, fast vote to give Americans $2,000 stimulus checks, as opposed to $600 checks amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Last week, Trump blasted the stimulus and spending bill for what he said was a disgrace to the American people. According to the outlet, "I simply want our great people to get $2,000, he tweeted about the bill, he said. In a statement announcing his signing, he added, "On Monday, the House will vote to increase payments to individuals from $600 to $2,000. Therefore, a family of four would receive $5,200. I'm going to make it rain, folks, okay? I'm going to make it rain. All the money, okay?" Newsweek reported some GOP lawmakers joined Democrats in using the vote for $2,000 stimulus checks on Sunday. Others have already expressed opposition to boosting direct payments, indicating that the party could break with Trump on the record in the coming days. Senator Lindsey Graham on Twitter praised the president following the announcement, writing, "With President Donald Trump signing the COVID-19 relief funding bill, suffering Americans will get help. The vaccine will be distributed faster and the government will stay open. Congress will vote on an additional stimulus checks and repealing Section 230. All wins for the American people. Well done, Mr. President," he added. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell shared a lengthy statement on Twitter Sunday night following the news, writing, "I applaud the President's decision to get billions of dollars of crucial COVID-19 relief out the door and into the hands of the American families. I am glad the American people will receive this much-needed assistance as our nation continues battling this pandemic." Which we read that already too. The president's move even won accolades from far-left Democrats, including Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ocasio-Cortez applauded the president's move and wrote, "Great! Now he can sign Rashida Tlaib and I's amendment to bring the $600 checks to $2,000. Sanders added, "Finally, now Trump wants to get Mitch McConnell and his Republican friends." That's my Barack Obama voice. That's not my Sanders voice. "Finally, now Trump can get Mitch McConnell and his Republican friends in the Senate to pass legislation to provide $2,000 in pudding cups and direct payments to the working class. Legislation I introduced with Senator Kamala Harris and Senator Markey 7 months ago." Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer added, "The House will not pass a bill to give Americans $2,000 checks. Then I will move to pass it in the Senate. No Democrats will object. Will Senate Republicans?" Yeah, it's all a reality show at this point. They're coming out here trying to make sure you're glued to the TV and sitting here wondering what the government can do for you rather than what you can do for yourself. We have come far cry from JFK. But regardless, we're going to see drama right up until the end, right up until it's over. And the new season of Federal Apprentice comes in with a new host. Let's keep going. From the Associated Press, downtown Nashville explosion knocks communications offline, from Kimberly Crusai, Michael Balsamo, and Eric Tucker. A recreational vehicle parked in the deserted streets of downtown Nashville exploded early Christmas morning, causing widespread communications outages that took down police emergency systems and grounded holiday travel at the city's airport. Authorities said they believe the blast was intentional. Police were responding to a report of shots fired on Friday when they encountered the RV blaring a recorded warning that a bomb would detonate in 15 minutes. Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake said police evacuated nearby buildings and called the bomb squad. The RV exploded shortly afterward, Drake said at a news conference. "It looks like a bomb went off on 2nd Avenue, Mayor John Cooper said after touring the site. It kinda did. I mean, that's kinda what happens when a bomb goes off, is it looks like a fucking bomb went off." Cooper issued a state of emergency and a curfew for the area. Police did not immediately indicate a possible motive or the target. Human remains were found in the vicinity of the explosion, 2 law enforcement officials told the Associated Press. It was unclear how the remains were related to the explosion, or whether they might belong to the person believed to be responsible or a victim. The officials could not discuss an ongoing investigation publicly and spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity. Surveillance video published on a Twitter account Friday that appeared to be across the street from the blast captured the warning issuing from the RV. "If you can hear this message, evacuate now," seconds before the explosion. The blast sent black smoke and flames billowing from the heart of downtown Nashville's tourist scene, an area packed with honky-tonks, restaurants, and shops. Buildings shook and windows shattered streets away from the explosion near a building owned by AT&T that lies 1 block from the company's office tower, a landmark in downtown. "We do not know if that was a coincidence or if that was the intention," police spokesman Don Aaron said. He said earlier that some people were taken to the department's central precinct for questioning, but declined to give details. AT&T said the affected building is the central office of a telephone exchange with network equipment in it. The blast interrupted service, but the company declined to say how widespread the outages were. Service for some customers in Nashville and surrounding areas may be affected by damage to our facilities. From the explosion this morning, we are in contact with law enforcement and working as quickly and safely as possible,
to restore service, AT&T spokesman Jim Greer said in an emailed statement. The AT&T outages site showed service issues in Middle Tennessee and Kentucky, including Bowling Green, about 65 miles or 105 kilometers north of Nashville. Several police agencies reported that their 911 systems were down because of the outage, including Murfreesboro and Knox County, home to Knoxville, about 180 miles east of Nashville. The Federal Aviation Administration temporarily halted flights out of Nashville International Airport because of telecommunications issues associated with the explosion. The FBI will be taking the lead in this investigation, agency spokesman Joel Siskovic said. Federal investigators from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives were also on the scene. The FBI is the primary law enforcement agency responsible for investigating federal crimes, which technically this is not, well, except for the fact I guess it did knock out internet in Kentucky, so that would be interstate, but technically no, it's not. Such as explosives violations and acts of terrorism. 3 people were taken to area hospitals for treatment after the blast, although none were in critical condition, Aaron said. A Philadelphia man staying in a nearby hotel said that when he heard the blast, he knew it wasn't harmless. We tried to rationalize that it was an earthquake or something, but it was obvious it wasn't an earthquake, Joseph Fafara said. He said he traveled to Tennessee with his family on Christmas because the state has a looser COVID-19 restrictions than Philadelphia. When he went to look at the damage, police barricades had already been put in place. At noon, police dogs continued to search cars and buildings in the nearby area. Buck McCoy, who lives in the area, posted videos on Facebook that show water pouring down the ceiling of his home. Alarms blare in the background, along with cries of people in distress. A fire is visible in the streets outside. There is so much going on with this and so much to unpack, and I think we're going to spend a lot more time with this tonight because apparently, and I've not confirmed this, but apparently and allegedly, Elaine lived, when she lived in Tennessee, very close to this area and spent a lot of time in this immediate vicinity where all of this went. And she has gone completely down the tinfoil rabbit hole on this and much, much further than I've been able to on this. I look at this and there's so much going on. And hearing some of the other commenters talk about this as well and now start to see some of the other stuff that's surfacing off of this, I'm going to put my theory right out there on the top. And I'm going to say that something bigger is going on with this. And the dude that they think has it, which I've got that article up here, the dude that they think is responsible for it, I think was a fall guy. And the shooting that we heard at the beginning was the people who were actually responsible shooting the dude so that his remains will be found in his RV. But I don't even know where to begin on any of this here. There's so much. There's the 5G aspect to it. There's the Dominion aspect to it, which I don't think there's a lot of credibility to that part of this. Obviously, people were talking about Islam before, and I've got an archived article from 5 months ago to talk about with that. There's so much. There's just so much here. So much I don't know. So much none of us know about this, but it's here. And we've got to sit back and figure out what's going on with it. Let's see what the Tennessean had to say. Nashville officials relieved explosion did not claim lives, resolved to find motive suspects. From Yi-Hyun Jong, Brinley Hinneman, and Mariah Timms. Nashville is turning from relief to resolve, Mayor John Cooper said Friday evening after an early morning explosion downtown upended Christmas Day and caused destruction for several blocks. No known suspects nor motives have been announced behind a bomb that detonated inside a parked RV on Nashville's historic 2nd Avenue. Near Lower Broadway, police have found what they believe are human remains, but have not confirmed any fatalities. This was archived on Saturday, so this has been updated since then. Cooper, at the last update for the evening, said the relief was, or that not more people were injured, has now turned to anger and determination to bring those responsible to justice. This was a terrible day, but Nashville has faced other challenges, particularly this year. We can rebuild and get back to normal, he said. This morning's attack on our community was intended to create chaos and fear in this season of peace and hope, but the spirit of our city cannot be broken. Authorities say the explosion was deliberate and intentional. Police came across a suspicious RV parked outside a nearby AT&T building near 2nd Avenue and Commerce Street before 6 a.m. when responding to calls of shots fired in the area, according to Metro Police spokesperson Don Aaron. There was no evidence of any shooting, but officers said and witnesses heard a broadcast coming from the RV, giving a dire warning. Evacuate now, there is a bomb. A bomb is in this vehicle and will explode. Then, the voice started a 15-minute countdown. Metro Police Chief John Drake said the 6 officers at the scene quickly began to evacuate the area. Going door to door, they redirected a man walking his dog along the street. The RV exploded at 6:30 a.m. as the bomb squad was en route. The force of the explosion knocked an officer to the ground and gave another officer what police hope is a temporary hearing loss. These 3 people were hospitalized with injuries. Police said it was unclear if anyone was inside the RV when it exploded. The tissue found near the site had to be examined to confirm if human. There were no reports of fatalities as of Friday afternoon. So, this is, of course, interesting to see, interesting to watch, and see what's going along with this. KMOB-4 FBI agents investigating if 5G paranoia was behind Nashville bombing. From Jeremy Finley. News 4 Investigates has confirmed FBI agents spent Saturday speaking with top Nashville real estate agent who contacted them after fearing the subcontractor who worked for him may be the same man whose home they were searching. Other federal agents spent much of the day searching the Antioch home of Anthony Warner. Realtor Steve Friedrich contacted the FBI after reading Warner's name, as for several years. A man by the name of Tony Warner had worked for him for several years, doing information technology work. Friedrich confirms the agents asked him whether or not Warner had paranoia about 5G technology. Friedrich told agents that Warner had never spoken to him about that. But a source close to the federal investigation said that among several tips and angles, agents are investigating whether or not Warner had paranoia that 5G technology was being used to spy on Americans. Yeah, this seems like a setup. I don't believe a word of this. A spokeswoman for the FBI said they cannot comment because of the pending investigation. Friedrich described the Tony Warner who worked for him as a kind person, who they contacted only to work on internet issues. Nice guy, he was a techie guy. Don't mean anything negative about that. He would do this thing and then leave. He didn't bother nobody. He did his thing and leave, Friedrich said. As for the RV that exploded when the bomb went off on December 25th, Friedrich said Warner only ever spoke of his fondness for camping in December. Yeah, he was a real quiet guy, and nobody would have expected that none of this would have happened nowhere. My fear looking at this is that this is going to go the same way as the Las Vegas shooting. That something else was going on with this, and there's clear evidence that something else was going on over the surface, and possibly one person was set up to be the fall guy, and then it's just going to disappear out of the news. That's my biggest fear for this whole thing, because this is one that I want to see closure from. I mean, I've got family that lives too close to this. My co-host used to live down in this very area. This could have turned out a lot worse for a lot more people too. All right, and now they say that, of course, they have the motive remains unknown for the man ID'd as the Nashville Christmas Day bomber. So now, at this point, ABC 6 Action News, via the Associated Press, is confirming that Warner was the dude. By the AP, by Kimberly Crucy, Michael Balsamo, and Eric Tucker. With federal officials having identified the man believed to be behind Nashville's Christmas Day bombing, authorities now turn to the monumental task of piecing together the motive behind the explosion that severely damaged dozens of downtown buildings and injured 3 people. While officials on Sunday named Anthony Quinn Warner, 63, as the man behind the mysterious explosion in which he was killed, The motive remains elusive. These answers don't come quickly and will still require a lot of our team's efforts, FBI Special Agent Doug Korneski said at a Sunday news conference, though we may be able to answer some of those questions as our investigation continues. None of those answers will be enough by those affected by this event. In just a few days, hundreds of tips and leads have been submitted to law enforcement agencies, yet thus far officials have not provided information on what possibly drove Warner to set off the explosion. David Rausch, the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, told reporters on Sunday that Warner had not been on the radar before Christmas. Furthermore, officials have not provided insight into why Warner selected a particular location for the bombing, which damaged an AT&T building and continued to wreak havoc on cell phone service and police and hospital communications in several southern states as the company worked to restore service. Yeah, there's so much going on. There's so many pieces. Like I said at the beginning, I think this dude was a fall guy. I think that there was something else going on here, and they jacked the dude's RV, shot him in the RV, and left him there as the bomb went off. But I'm willing to bet the dude was already dead by the time the bomb went off. But so much of this doesn't make sense. I mean, if you think Muslim, but nobody was killed, you think domestic terrorism, I don't know. And I think a lot of people don't know. But I'm just going to stay briefly on this one for just a couple seconds longer, but we are going to go a lot deeper into this tonight. I guarantee we're going to go a lot deeper into this. But yeah, there's some of the pictures of the carnage. There's a video of the moment at hand. Let's see if we can see this. Doesn't look like there's any sound. Pop goes the RV. Yeah, there it is right there. So yeah, that's what we're seeing from that. There's some of the aftermath. So yeah, we'll talk a lot more about this tonight. Tune into the Red Ned Show tonight, and we will go deep into this. And you know, like I said, Elaine's been going down the rabbit hole of this since Christmas. So I'm sure she's got a lot more to say about this than I have. All right, let's keep going. This is an archived article that Elaine brought to my attention. So I don't know how much bearing this has on this, given the fact that they have said that, oh, well, it was Anthony Warner at this point. But she thought it interesting enough to bring up. This is from 5 months ago, from the New York Times, a former newspaper. Tennessee newspaper apologizes for utterly indefensible anti-Muslim ad. From Brian Pietsch. The Tennessean newspaper in Nashville is investigating how it came to publish a full-page ad on Sunday by a biblical prophecy group claiming Islam would detonate a bomb in the city. The ad, which included a photo collage of President Trump, Pope Francis, and burning American flags, urged readers to visit a website offering more details. The ad was credited to the group Ministry for a Future for America, which it says its mission is to proclaim the final warning message from the Bible. Addressed to dear citizens of Nashville, the 8-paragraph ad spanned the full length of the newspaper page and discussed Russian President Vladimir Putin, the Democratic Party, and September 11th. It claimed Trump's presidency was part of a prophecy, warned of another civil war, and said that Islam is going to detonate a nuclear device in Nashville. Well, that was an incendiary device, so, I mean, they got the nuke part wrong. Clearly, there is a breakdown in the normal processes which call for careful scrutiny of our advertising content. Michael A. Anastasi, the newspaper's vice president and editor, said in the paper's news coverage of the ad, "The ad is horrific and is utterly indefensible in all circumstances. It is wrong, period, and should have never been published." But Eric Bacharach, a sports reporter for the Tennessean, said the ad also appeared in Wednesday's newspaper. So they're trying to claim Islam right away off of this, which, once again, nobody was killed, so I don't think that Islam would have been, and Islam wouldn't have issued a warning. They would have just gone in there and suicide vests and made sure that as many people are around as possible, not warn you, say, here, you got 15 fucking minutes, get the shit out of here. But, and of course, doing this at 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas morning, on top of everything else. In a commercial district, not necessarily a residential area. None of this makes sense. All right, let's keep going. Let's move off of this and move on to some of the other news that we have here. So Glenn Greenwald tweets out, the provision is in the NDAA because pro-war defense contractor funded Dems in the House and Armed Services Committee. Adam Smith, Jason Crow, Ruben Gallego united with Liz Cheney against Ro Khanna, Tulsi, and Matt Gaetz to bar Trump from withdrawing troops in Afghanistan. And Ilhan Omar, I don't know why I can agree with Ilhan Omar. What weird world is this? This past, as Democrats worked with Republicans to vote against my amendment calling for a 2021 withdrawal. So, of course, because of this, Common Dreams wants a donation from me. But Common Dreams writes out 103 Democrats joined GOP in voting down Omar amendment to accelerate U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. From Jake Johnson, staff writer. The House of Representatives on Tuesday voted down a proposal by Representative Ilhan Omar to accelerate the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan and help bring to a close the longest war in U.S. history. The Minnesota Democrats' amendment to the NDAA fell by a vote of 129 to 284, with 103 House Democrats joining 181 Republicans in voting no. We are deeply disappointed by today's vote. Oh, that was Stephen Miles, not Ilhan Omar. Stephen Miles, executive director of Win Without War, told Common Dreams. The House passed a nearly identical provision several years ago with near unanimous Democratic support. Far too many House Democrats wrongly viewed that this somehow as a vote on Donald Trump rather than a vote to end our nation's longest war, Miles said. Frankly, they need to learn to walk and chew gum at the same time. They should be able to oppose Trump and end endless wars all at the same time. But they're not, because they're getting paid to do it. And yes, of course, there is the sentiment there as well of, well, we can't give Trump a win. What the fuck? Why would we give Trump a win? But yes, there is a lot of Raytheon money that is flowing around Congress. And remember, I asked last week, would it be hypocritical for me to buy stock in Raytheon right now? Not because I want the wars to go, but just because I know that they are going to be coming up with a bunch of money as we go into another foreign theater or improve our presence in one that we're currently in. If passed, Omar's amendment would have removed from the House NDAA language inserted by Representatives Liz Cheney and Jason Crow that impose a series of vague conditions on U.S. troop withdrawal in Afghanistan. No, Omar, you're thinking about this all wrong. Don't think about this as we're going to war and we're doing something like that. Just think of it as some people did something. The Cheney-Crow provisions require that before the number of U.S. troops stationed in Afghanistan can be reduced below 8,000, the Pentagon must certify that withdrawal will not increase the risk of expansion of existing or formation of new terrorist safe havens inside of Afghanistan and is the best interest of the U.S. national security. So basically, we're never leaving. Basically, we're never leaving, according to this article. Some people did something. All right. I can't believe that I'm agreeing with Ilhan Omar, of all people. But, broken clock. From Fox News. Autoplay. Go away. Nobody likes you. You'll probably turn the autoplay protection back on, too. New York City video captures the moments before Cuomo staffer is attacked with a cinder block. The 28-year-old homeless man has been charged with a felony assault from Michael Ruiz. Video shows a homeless man creeping up on a female staffer for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo moments before he allegedly bashed her over the head with a cinder block near a New York City construction site. The victim, 51-year-old Lisa Kavanaugh, was walking home from work on 3rd Avenue near East 48th Street in broad daylight on Christmas Eve when Christopher Guzman allegedly attacked her, the New York Post reported. The video, obtained by the Post, shows a man following a woman raising a chunk of concrete over his head, then he rushes at her. The attack left Kavanaugh unconscious with a 2-inch deep wound, and she needed stitches, according to the report. She is expected to survive. Cuomo, and we have been in constant touch with her and her family to make sure that she has everything she needs in her recovery, Richard, as a party, a senior advisor to the governor, told Fox News in an email on Friday. We thank the New York Police Department for their quick work in apprehending the person they believe attacked her. And we just got bumped off. So we'll give that a second. Am I back on? Am I back on? It says I'm back on. My monitor says I'm off, but this says I'm back on. Let's see if we can figure out why. Oh, the technical issues. I just got knocked off D-Live, apparently. I have no idea what just happened here. I am off of D-Live for whatever reason. But I'm on, I think, everywhere else. Let's check. On-air production, folks. It's just D-Live, guys. It is just D-Live because, yeah, everything else is. I just went back over to YouTube, and I'm still on YouTube. Although I'm sure that not many people can hear that. Yeah, it looks like it's just D-Live went out. So, all right, we will go and analyze that and figure out what's going on with that. Otherwise, you guys can always find me over on YouTube and over on twitch.tv/edsblogtwitter. You guys can always find me there. All right, we've got to keep going, though. Lisa is a valued member of Team Cuomo, and we've been in constant touch with her and her family to make sure she's everything she needs in her recovery. Richard, as a party, a senior advisor to the governor, told Fox News in an email on Friday. We thank the NYPD for their quick work in apprehending the person they believe attacked her. Guzman faces felony assault charges. He told police that he lived in a homeless shelter on West 35th Street. Kavanaugh works for the governor's office and doing recruiting and appointments, according to her LinkedIn profile. The governor's city offices are just a few blocks away from where the attack happened. So, was it just because, did the guy know this was a Cuomo staffer? Is this just a random attack? Nobody knows what's going on with this, but yeah, I don't think that this was anything to do with Cuomo. I think that a dude just saw a pretty old lady walking down the street and said, boom, I want her money, or whatever the fuck that he wanted. So I wouldn't read too far into this. I know a lot of people are trying to make this into a big thing, but I would not read too far into this. All right. Thank you, everybody who was able to find me on other platforms, too, by the way, because, yeah, the DLive is gone. All right, from the Daily Wire, 2 incoming House Dems won't say if they'll back Pelosi's speakership bid. Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, by the way, this is from Eric Quintanar. Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, 2 incoming Democratic representatives, wouldn't say Sunday if they were going to back Speaker Pelosi in her bid to remain the highest-ranking member of the House. Instead, the 2 Democrats offered odd answers in which they in which they suggested that they first needed to consult with their communities. Well, I mean, you're a representative of your community to the federal government, so that should be the first thing that everybody's doing. It shouldn't be party. Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, of course, most of your partisan politics will come out and say, no, they're supposed to just follow the party line and do what the party says. No, that's not what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to go and see what it is that your party wants. I'm sorry, your community. You're supposed to go and see what your community wants and then go and do it. Not do what your party wants. So, I mean, that's what we're seeing off of this, and they're doing it right. Once again, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, but I definitely am agreeing with Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. Broken clock, guys. They're doing this the right way. What I'm going to do is make sure that the voices of the people of St. Louis are heard and that we have what we need. And so you'll find out then Bush, who has been called the latest addition to the squad, told CNN host Dana Bash after authoring a mild chuckle, "I'm working with my community," she added. Incoming progressive Congressman Jamal Bowman, who was also featured in the interview, answered the Pelosi question the same way. "You'll find out when my vote is tallied, and again, organizing with our community to figure out what's best." Okay, but as soon as the political winds shift in your favor, you're going to stop consulting with your community and go do whatever it is that the corporate interests and the big money powers tell you to fucking do. So, good on the virtue signal. Good on the virtue signal, but whatever. Spartan, YouTube, and Twitch are both working, so you can go along and hang out with the Twitch people. Except you can't hear me. The CNN host tried to push the duo on exactly what they were waiting to hear from their communities before committing to the speakership vote, but ran out of time for Bush to answer after the duo talked over each other twice. Bowman simply blurted out that the country needs reparations for slavery, a jobs guarantee, and Medicare for all. So, communism. All communism. All right. Let's keep going off of this one. From the New Yorker. The ultra-wealthy who argue that they should be paying higher taxes. From Sheila Kolhatkar. Yeah, this is basically don't burn my fucking business down. Because there's no way the ultra-wealthy are going to come out and say, please tax me more. They do the same thing that you do. Every time that you go into the tax office, you go into your tax account and say, hey, how can I pay the least amount of taxes this year? What can you find for me to pay the least amount of taxes? Abigail Disney, who remembers the moment 2 decades ago when she no longer wanted to fly in her family's private plane. Disney is the granddaughter of Roy O. Disney, who founded the Disney Company with his younger brother Walt in 1923. And her father was a longtime senior executive there. Abigail's parents owned a Boeing 737, one of the largest private aircraft models on the market. And they let her use it for family trips for many years when Abigail was raising her 4 children. She would take the plane to Ireland, visit her mother's castle. The plane was like a flying playpen, Abigail told me recently. I've known the pilot since I was a teenager. One day, when their children were older, she took an overnight flight from California to New York. where she lives. She was traveling alone, but there was a full staff on duty to cater to her needs. As she got into the queen-size bed and secured the safety belt that stretched across the mattress, preparing to sleep for the next few hours, an unpleasant feeling came over her. I couldn't help thinking about the carbon footprint of it and all the fuel, she said. It just felt so wrong. It wasn't the first time that Abigail, who inherited part of her grandfather's fortune, had experienced discomfort about her wealth and how little she had done to deserve it. As a child, she would go with her grandfather to Disneyland, where she was treated as a special guest. He loved taking us to the front of the line, she said. She would hang her head as they marched past the other families who had been waiting for rides in the hot sun. I'd say, "Grandpa, they hate us," she recalled. And he'd say, "I worked hard, so hard all these years so you could go to the front of the line." As a young adult, Disney forged her own life in New York City, first as a mother and later as a documentary film producer. She eventually stopped flying on the private plane, although it took a year or two. "These things are hard to give up," she told me, and she started advocating for peace and women's equality. All right, so this is going on to some rich progressive that came out and said, "Oh no, the rich need to just be paying more." Well, as I've pointed out numerous times on this point, when we talked about the wall, when I made a video about earmarking, and when I've talked about taxation in general, a there's a website, there's a page on the Federal Reserve website where you can make a donation to the Federal Reserve. Now, you can't tell them where it goes unless it's going specifically to the national debt, but you can pay into the system if you want. You can pay extra. But I hate to tell you this, but Iger, who is currently the CEO of Disney, the head of GM, the head of Ford, everybody else in the country is going to look at this and say, how can I pay as little taxes as possible? And many of these people, like Bill Ford or Bob Iger, are actually going and lobbying with Congress to make the loopholes that they can then turn around and take advantage of to pay as little of tax as possible. Now, that being said, the amount of tax that you pay should be between your locality, maybe your state, if your state decides they need to do so. It should be between you and the federal government. Your states should be paying your federal taxes, not you. The direct taxation of the American people was one of the biggest problems that came out of the new federal government. But you have an option to go back and donate more money to the government if that's what you really want to do with your money. It seems like a gigantic waste to me. This is an older article too. This is from last year. I just noticed that now. But it popped up in my feed and I thought that we should take a look at it. All right, I got just a few more, then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity and head on out of here. From CNN, Chinese journalist who documented Wuhan coronavirus outbreak jailed for 4 years. From Nectar Gann and James Griffiths. An independent Chinese journalist who reported from Wuhan at the height of the initial coronavirus outbreak has been jailed for the last 4 years by a Shanghai court, her lawyer said on Monday. Zhang Zhan, 37, was found guilty of picking quarrels and provoking trouble, according to one of the defense lawyers, Zhang Keck, who attended her hearing. The offense is commonly used by the Chinese government to target dissidents and human rights activists. A former lawyer, Zhang traveled some 400 miles from Shanghai to Wuhan, in early February to report on the pandemic and subsequent attempts to contain it, just as the authorities began reining in the state-run and private Chinese media. For more than 3 months, she documented snippets of life under the lockdowns in Wuhan and the harsh reality faced by its residents, from overflowing hospitals to empty shops. She posted her observations, photos, and videos in WeChat, Twitter, and YouTube, the latter of two which are blocked in China. Her postings came to an abrupt stop in mid-May when she was later revealed to have been detained by police and brought back to Shanghai. Did she get shanghaied? According to Amnesty International, at one point during her detention, Zhang went on a hunger strike, during which time she was shackled and force-fed. Treatment in the group amounted to torture. All right, and I just got the 5% warning on my phone, so we're going to have to drop the Instagram feed too. So head on over into the YouTube. The link is in my bio. But yeah, we got to drop this, otherwise it'll drop abruptly here in just a few minutes. So let's drop that. Thanks, Chalaga, for coming over there and hanging out. But let's get that closed. It's been a great tech day, hasn't it? The first day after traveling with my entire studio. Always a great tech day. Her lawyer, Zhang, said the Zhang Kek one. CNN did not immediately receive a response from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs on allegations of Zhang's mistreatment in detention. Zhang's lawyer said she attended Monday's hearing in a wheelchair as she'd become frail during her time in detention. In her indictment, prosecutors accused her of publishing large amounts of fake information and receiving interviews from overseas media outlets, including Radio Free Asia and the Epoch Times, to maliciously stir up the Wuhan COVID-19 epidemic situation. But Zhang's lawyer said the prosecutors did not display any concrete evidence of the fake information Zhang was accused of fabricating. During the court proceeding, he added that his client, in a gesture of protest, barely spoke during the trial and refused to plead guilty. Zhang is the first citizen journalist known to have been sentenced for her role in reporting on the coronavirus pandemic, but it is not her first run-in with the authorities. And yes, if Beijing Biden winds up getting asterisked in, you can actually expect to see a little bit more of this. You're going to see some more of this as we go along. More and more people coming up and saying, hey, I want to report on something. Oh, well, you can go to prison. All right, let's keep going. From The Blaze, Fauci doubles down after being confronted over startling admission that he deceived the public about herd immunity. From Chris Enlow, Dr. Anthony Fauci is defending startling comments he made last week in which he admitted he was not completely honest about the number of Americans who needed to get the coronavirus vaccine before the American population can achieve so-called herd immunity. Fauci is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and a key member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Fauci admitted in an interview with the New York Times that he moved the goalposts on herd immunity percentages partly based on public polling data to covertly encourage more Americans to get vaccinated. At the beginning of the pandemic, Fauci stated publicly that 60 to 70% of the American public would need to be inoculated with vaccine to achieve herd immunity. But Fauci slightly increased his percentages as the pandemic raged on, suggesting in his interview with the Times that achieving herd immunity would require 90% of the American public to receive the vaccine. When the polls said that only half of Americans would take the vaccine, I was saying that herd immunity would take 70 to 75%, Fauci told the Times. Then, when the newer surveys said 60% or more would take it, I thought I can nudge this up a bit, so I went to 80 to 85. We need to have some humility here, he added. We really don't know what the real number is. I think the real range is somewhere between 70 and 90%, but I'm not going to say 90%. Who cares? It's going to fucking mutate once again. It's just going to keep mutating. It's going to mutate and mutate and mutate into other shit, and this is going to be a thing that we have. It's going to be the flu all over again. We'll get it every year. Hopefully we won't shut the economy down every year, but, I mean, it's here. And that's going to be that. All right, from the AP, this one is local to me. Because Rockford is, like, what, not even 20 miles away from where I'm sitting? It's close. Shooting at Illinois bowling alley leaves 3 dead and 3 injured. A gunman opened fire inside of an Illinois bowling alley, killing 3 people and injuring 3 others Saturday night in what authorities believe was a random attack. A 37-year-old male suspect was in custody after the shooting at Don Carter Lanes, Rockford police said in a social media post. I think I know where that is, actually. 2 of those who were shot were teenagers, Police Chief Dan O'Shea said during a news conference. O'Shea did not immediately release additional information about the victims. He described the scene as contained and said he did not think any officers fired their weapons while apprehending the suspected gunman. Rockford is about 80 miles, or 130 kilometers northwest of Chicago. Mayor Tom McNamara released a statement saying he was angered and saddened about the shooting. Well, you should probably take a little bit more objective stance to that because you are the chief law enforcement officer of the Associated Press. Innocent until proven guilty. My thoughts are with the families of those who lost loved ones, McNamara said. I'm also thinking of those who are injured, and my hopes are with them for a quick and full recovery. The Rockford Register-Star reported that 2020 has been the city's deadliest year for homicides, according to records that date back to 1965. 35 people have been killed in the city this year, breaking the previous record of 31 in 1996. Yeah, per capita, Rockford is actually deadlier than Chicago, which is crazy because it's like a quarter of the size. But it's bad. I do not go to Rockford if I can avoid it for any reason whatsoever. I have had to go there because of work, but I do not go there if I can avoid it. For whatever reason I can avoid it, if I can stay away from going to Rockford, I do not go to Rockford. And I would suggest that you do the same. All right, let's keep going. I got just a few more here, then we'll head on out of here for the morning, and I'll go eat some breakfast and figure out all my major technical issues, because apparently there are many today. By the way, did D-Live ever come back? I don't know. Let's figure out. From ABC 13. Let's get back up to the top here. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris shares a Kwanzaa message. This is about the dumbest fucking thing that could have possibly happened this holiday season. Let's see what ABC 13 has to say, and then we'll talk about how stupid this is. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris is wishing all who celebrate a happy first day of Kwanzaa. She posted a video on Instagram commemorating the holiday that honors African American and Pan-African culture, and talked about celebrating the holiday growing up. Every year, our family and our extended family, we would gather round across multiple generations, and we'd tell stories, she said. We'd light the candles, and of course afterward, have a beautiful meal. During each night of the 7-night celebration, families in light the kinara, which is nothing but a menorah, while discussing one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, called the Nyuzo Saba. My favorite principle was always about self-determination. Kuji Cha Gulia, Harris said. It's not about letting anyone write our future for us, but going out and writing it ourselves. Which is basically the mission that she's going to push Joe Biden's wheelchair off the fucking cliff. Kwanzaa is celebrated from December 26th to January 1st. Oh, what is all wrong with this? The big one for me, of course, is well, I have fond memories of celebrating Kwanzaa when I was a kid. So for those of you who don't know, Kwanzaa, first off, Kwanzaa was created. I mean, this isn't a traditional, ancient African culture. It's not a traditional, ancient African holiday. This was created in 1964 by a Black Panther leader. I'm sorry, 1960, was it 66? 67 was the first celebration. Yeah, 67. So, Kamala Harris was born in 1964. And I'm sure that her Indian and Jamaican parentage were so eager in 1967 to celebrate an African nationalist movement, a holiday that went to celebrate African nationalism, that she's been celebrating this since she was a kid. This is a pander. This is a virtue signal. I don't believe that she grew up celebrating Kwanzaa. I don't. I don't believe any of this, but of course it's a politician, so I don't believe any word that comes out of her mouth. But yes, of course, go ahead and pander some more. She still hasn't resigned her Senate seat yet, by the way. All right, let's keep going. Speaking of people that have no reason to be anywhere near the government, from The Blaze exclusive, Candace Owens tells Glenn Beck that she will run for office. I'll win, and they won't know what hit them. From Phil Shiver, conservative Political commentator Candace Owens has decided to run for political office and is eyeing a seat right now, she told Blaze TV's Glenn Beck Thursday morning. Owens, 30, did not disclose exactly which office she was looking at, but declared that when she decides to run, she will win. I'll tell you something else, Glenn. I'll win, she said. Well, she will dox anybody who votes against her. That's why she'll win. People will be too afraid to vote against her because she'll go out and release their public information, and that's why she'll win. They won't know what hit them, which means that she'll swat anybody who is a detractor of her. They're being dishonest, and they lie, and I've had enough of it. Owens, who grew up in Connecticut, teased the announcement on Twitter just minutes before joining Beck on his radio program, saying that she was honestly considering running for office despite not having any desire ever before. Beck brought up the tweet during the interview to confirm the news with Owens and asked what factors drove her to make the decision. I don't know, probably a gigantic fucking grift. You know, I was talking to my husband about this and my frustration about all these governors and how dishonest they've been. I'm just getting sick of it, Owens said in reference to the gubernatorial actions amid the ongoing coronavirus outbreak in America. So I said to my husband, you know what? I think I should get into politics. I think I should run. I should surprise run and take somebody for everything they have and expose people. The dox. Can dox Owens. Of course she's going to go and dox somebody. We can actually probably listen to this.
You just tweeted right before you went on the air, and I just saw it. I am now honestly considering running for office. I never had any desire previously, but something has changed in me last night. Had a conversation with my husband, and I think it's a plan.
Yeah, I did tweet that, and that is real.
You just tweeted it 25 minutes ago. So what tell me about it.
You know, I was talking to my husband about this and my frustration with all of these governors and how dishonest they've been. And, you know, I grew up in Connecticut. I came up in New York. I spent my early 20s, 7 years in New York City. I was born in New York. And watching the way that these governors are lying and mismanaging, I'm getting sick of it. So I said to my husband, I think I should get into politics. I think I should run. I should surprise run and take somebody for everything they have and expose these people. And we had a conversation about it.
So run for?
I'm not entirely sure yet. And it will be a super surprise when I announce it, when I do it. And I'll tell you something else, Glenn. I'll win. There'll be no question. I will win. I will win the entire thing. They won't know what hit them.
So, yeah, she's going to go back and dox anybody who goes against her. And God help, if any of you are in her district, move. Just get out. Because she's going to be another one of those that'll do anything for fucking power. Anything at all. She's not going to represent you. Keep this woman away from any office you possibly can. Anything you could... You know what? No. If you are in this woman's district or you have the opportunity to be in this woman's district and she decides to run for something, go there and vote against her. Make sure that this woman stays as far away from politics as you can. Vote for a Democrat over this one. Well, I mean, no matter what, you're going to be voting for a Democrat or voting for a Democrat. Because this woman is not a conservative. This woman has never been a conservative. She is a raging fucking leftist that decided to vote a different direction. But she took all the raging fucking leftist playbook with her. If you don't agree with me, I'm going to go tell your employer that you don't agree with me. I'm going to put your information out online. I'm going to make sure that people go to your house and protest you if you don't agree with everything that I say. She is a fucking progressive that votes for different candidates. That's all that she is. So no. Get rid of her. All right, a little bit of sad news as we come on the hour-and-a-half mark. Jeez. It's always on the weekend when they do so much stupid shit. Iconic comedy theater Upright Citizens Brigade closes Sunset Boulevard location. From ABC 7 News, no author given. The Upright Citizens Brigade, an iconic comedy theater, is closing its Sunset Boulevard location due to the pandemic. Co-founders Amy Paler, Matt Besser, and Matt Walsh, but not the Matt Walsh that talks like this that has the beard over on the Daily Wire, took to Instagram to announce the closing of the theater. We've been forced to sell our theater on Sunset, the post reads. We've been unable to make mortgage payments during the extended shutdown. We know that this theater was a home for so many, and so many people were responsible for helping it to grow. UCB's closure in Los Angeles comes 8 months after the closure of all of its New York locations. And these guys I thought they were doing pretty well for a while. I don't know anything about them, but I do remember that they had a sketch comedy show on Comedy Central for a while. I remember that. I didn't even realize that they were still going on. I thought that they went away when that got canceled at Comedy Central. But I guess this is a big deal for people that live in Los Angeles and New York. So I guess I'm sorry to hear that for you people who enjoyed it. I never have taken the time, so I'm indifferent to this. But yeah, I guess a lot of people are pretty upset by this. All right, couple more. Then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity. I'm sorry, one more, and then we'll do something that restores my faith in humanity. Spoiler alert! You just saw what it was. And this was archived, and I've got to resubmit it. All right, from the San Francisco Chronicle. San Francisco residents marvel at Christmas miracle of gingerbread monolith in the park. From Lizzie Johnson. It was Christmas morning, and not a creature in Alexis Gallagher's home was stirring. Not his wife, Ringay, not his 12-year-old son, Odysseus, and not his 9-year-old daughter, Callisto. Who named these people? Wow. The puppy, though, was awake by 7:30 a.m. and antsy for a walk, so Gallagher leashes Hermes, after the ancient Greek god, not to be confused with the fashion designer, the Bernedoodle, and made that 10-minute trek to Corona Heights Park. There they confronted what Gallagher described as a Christmas miracle. Perched on the red gravel overlooking the foggy San Francisco skyline was a towering monolith of gingerbread. Glued together with swirls of frosting, the triangular structure was supported by plywood and dotted with brightly colored gumdrop candy. And rats and raccoons, by the way, probably. Gallagher gaped. Hermes, meanwhile, tried to eat the gingerbread structure. The monolith was an unexpected surprise in what had been a dark year, with more than 18,900 people across California hospitalized with coronavirus by Friday, among them nearly 4,000 in intensive care, and 0% intensive care unit availability in Southern California. How could you not call it a Christmas miracle? Gallagher, 44, said by phone from the safety of his home. A very well-engineered and well-constructed miracle at that. He paused as barking began in the background. Oh, sorry, that's the dog. But yeah, I was like, the city's not dead yet. It still has spirit. Oh, these stupid monoliths. People are making a religion around this too. And it'll disappear. And furthermore, how is nobody seeing this? And even further than that, how do you justify the waste of gingerbread that this was? Because this is stale by this point. The birds are going to eat this. The raccoons are going to eat this thing. And think of all the houses that you could have made out of this. All those stupid decorative little houses you see around that are delicious, but a little bit out of the norm. How many of those could you have made with the amount of gingerbread you used in this monolith? Come on, people, do better. Do better. All right, and that's it. So, last thing that we do on Monday is something that restores my faith in humanity, which came from this story here. Now, of course, the independent spirit of America is something that I've been very, very vocal about, and I hope that we can get back to it because we are here because we didn't want to be under the thumb of the British Empire anymore. People wanted to go out and strike it rich, take whatever risk was necessary to come to a new area and build their lives, and many of them could have died. They could have died just in the journey over. But now we shut everything down over a 99% survival rate virus. But not everybody's willing to do so. Beverly Hills Eatery reportedly planning indoor speakeasy New Year's Eve party draws police interest. Please keep this discreet, but tell all your friends. The invitation posted online read by City News Service. City officials are hoping to put the kibosh on a famous Beverly Hills restaurant's plans for a New Year's Eve dining party, which would violate the county health orders that prohibit in-person dining amid the recent surge in coronavirus cases. Good, do it anyway. La Scala, a gourmet Italian eatery on 434 North Cannon Drive, reportedly placed invitations in carry-out bags to gauge its customers' interest in a speakeasy-style party. But when word got out on social media, Beverly Hills officials stepped in. The city has made direct contact with representatives of La Scala on December 24th to confirm the conditions of the county's health order, Beverly Hills Public Information Officer Keith Sterling said. We understand that this is an incredibly difficult time for all of our businesses. However, the county order does currently prohibit indoor and outdoor dining, including in the city of Beverly Hills. The city's police department also said it was aware of the plans. Thank you for taking the BHPD, Beverly Hills Code Enforcement, is aware and will be handling this matter, the department tweeted on Friday. And yeah, I don't know how you get this information out without alerting the police or some little tattletale over in Beverly Hills, but the fact that they actually have the stones to come out and try this. Because we need more of this. If the government's going to come down and say you're not allowed to do so, we need to go back to our 1920s mentality, because it is the 20s after all. Go out and say we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to do it in secret. And we're going to set the whole thing up so we can turn everything over and hide everything in a second. This is what we need. We need more of this. We need more of this across the country, especially in big progressive areas, and it restores my faith in humanity that even in progressive Southern California, people are willing to go out and outright break the law in secret to make sure that they can keep their businesses open, that they can get the people in, that they can get people to socialize again, that they can get people to have some fun and happy time, so they're not out there trying to fucking kill themselves, because that has spiked in recent years. So, I'm good on these people. I love to see something like this. I hate the fact that it's getting shut down, but I love to see something like this. And as they crack down more, let's hope that places like Cafe Scala just pack up their shit and move out. There's more of a country than just Southern California. And these people don't have your best interests at heart, especially if you own a business there. So take this under advisement. And that's going to be it. So I'm going to head on out of here and finish up the itinerary for tonight's show and get ready for that, because we're looking forward to that and talking a lot more about the Nashville bombing. I know we didn't talk much about it on Friday, but we had an abbreviated show. With Stephen involved especially, we could have gone on that all night. All day and all night. Christmas Day, with everything else that just what we knew at the time. But, excuse me, we will be talking a bit more about that tonight. We'll talk more about this wild ride that the stimulus has been. Where this goes and what happens now that Trump tries to go through and redline this. And of course, why he didn't do this 4 years ago as well. We've got plenty more to talk about. So hope to see you tonight, 5:30 Central Time, for the Redneck Show. It's going to be a great one. It's going to be a good one, and hopefully my microphone will be fixed by then. Otherwise, I'll be back here tomorrow for more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.